Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry if it's your first time on this channel. I am A.H.P. I'm an author and I also do business. Now today's video is basically for that part of my channel where we talk about real life issues, and it's called Real Talks. So today's topic is abuse stroke incest. That's what we're going to be discussing. But before we get into today's topic, I just want to thank all of you, my subscribers, who watch my videos, and thank you for those of you who watch my videos from United Kingdom, and also thank you so much for those of you who watch my videos from United States. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the time that you take out to watch my videos. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet but you do watch my content, please do click the subscribe button and the notification bell to let you know when I've uploaded another video. So let us get into today's topic. So basically there are 4 types of abuse. Okay, 4 types of abuse, and the first type of abuse is sexual abuse. The second is physical abuse. The third is emotional abuse, and the fourth is neglect. Okay, so basically, contrary to contrary to the notion that only or mostly girls are the ones who get sexually abused, that is not actually true. But it's both girls and boys, whether children or young adults who get sexually abused, and not just sexually abused, but they go through all these kinds of abuse. Now, what is neglect? Neglect is basically when your basic needs are not met. So you're not taken to school, you don't eat, you don't sleep well, like the environment around you is just not nice, and all of that kind of stuff is not acceptable for a child or for a young person, especially when you are dependent. Okay, so that is what neglect is in regards to abuse. Emotional abuse is everything to do with emotions. So when you are emotionally hurt all the time, when people speak to you in a way that hurts you all the time, your feelings all the time, and your views are not heard, you're not able to express yourself, and the environment that you're in does not allow you to express yourself. So your emotional needs are not being met, basically. Physical abuse is basically when you get beaten up and all sorts of physical torture. It doesn't just stop at beating. Some children and young people end up like having cigarette butts and all kinds of stuff like placed on them, like burnt and all of that stuff. That is all abuse. Now, abuse, whether it's short term or long term, it produces trauma. Okay, it traumatizes the individual experiencing the abuse, and when it's not dealt with, they end up inflicting themselves, and also they end up becoming abusers. Okay, because they think that that behavior is normal, because that's, especially if that's all they see, all they experience day in, day out, they end up in doing exactly the same thing. Now, not all the time, but sometimes there's the other extreme result of abuse that causes the person who has been abused to feel rejected at all times, to feel unwanted at all times, and they feel unable to express themselves at all times. They feel all kinds of different fears at all times, or most times, especially when they get into environment that reminds them of the situation, even if they're no longer in that environment, that abusive environment. When they come across or they see anything that reminds them of those incidences, they end up reliving it all over again, which is why psychologists and psychiatrists, they normally call those triggers. Okay. And so before we continue on the topic of abuse, let's look at what molestation is. Okay, so let me just find, I hope I can find the, basically is when a person is sexually violated. Okay, that's what molestation is. Someone who is sexually violated. Okay. um And so people experience this. Children, young people, even adults, you know, experience this kind of treatment like molestation, you know. And it's normally, you know, it's not just men who molest, um, whether it's girls or boys or young people. Women do it too. Okay, women do it too. So don't be naive just to think that it's only men who do it. Women do it too. Okay, so um, and it can tie in with, we can now tie it into abuse, because it also forms part of like the sexual abuse that we were talking about earlier on. And so when someone has gone through any of those kinds of abuse, like I said, they end up being traumatized. And abuse is one of the many reasons, especially if you are in the UK, because although I'm a Ugandan, what's it called? I'm Ugandan. I do create my videos from the UK, so um, that's what I can speak into. But abuse doesn't just happen to what's it called, in the UK. It happens around the world. Okay, it happens all around the world. Yeah, so you can be watching this video from anywhere around the world. And the reason why it continues to happen is because those who are abused are often silenced, because they're not believed by um, the society. They're not believed by the people who they think would have believed them. They are not able to, um, they're not believed when they express that they've been abused, um, especially when it comes to sexual abuse, because it's not, the damage of sexual abuse is not often seen um, on the outside, unless it becomes medical. Okay. So therefore these young people, these children, you know, end up living it over and over again, because it's not seen on the outside. It's only begins to see on the outside when they begin to harm themselves. They begin to harm themselves. And what I would say is that, you know, being someone who's in the UK, I've seen the damage at first hand of abuse and molestation, you know, especially sexual abuse and on young people. Even as they become adults, they go through what the psychiatrist diagnosed as post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, so something, post-traumatic stress disorder is basically a condition that is triggered by by your past experiences. So it's not just physical abuse or neglect or any of that, sexual abuse or anything like that. It can even be because of war and being in toxic environment that you're not meant to be, because as humans, God did not create us to carry pain. God did not create us to to carry pain and to carry affliction. And so people who have been abused or molested, they often have a post-traumatic stress disorder where they begin to have nightmares about the experiences. They begin to relive those memories. It's because of those memories in their mind. And if it's not dealt with, um, they end up harming themselves. And that is why we see a lot of people who have post-traumatic disorders, they're often suicidal. We see people who have gone through these kind of issues end up self-harming themselves, where they cut themselves and to basically numb the pain of the abuse. And it doesn't matter if they've been removed from that place already, but as long as they're not healed from the pain, the trauma, the shame of the abuse, they remain in that state. They'll remain in that state. That is why you see, mental what's it called, people who are in the mental institution. For example, you see them over and over and over again, and they're there for years. Is because they haven't been healed from the trauma of the abuse. Okay, so if you are somebody who has experienced any of the forms of the abuse that I've spoken about, whether it's physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, or neglect, or you've been molested, somebody has sexually violated you, whether it's and that's is another stereotype. People often think that people who have been abused or molested has it was done by a stranger. No, oftentimes it's not done by a stranger. Sometimes yes, by strangers, but oftentimes it's not by strangers. Oftentimes it's by family members. Oftentimes it's by close, you know family, close relatives, like extended relatives. Sometimes it's friends or families. Okay, so it's very important that you keep an eye out on who is around your children and who is around the young person. Even if your child is older, or the child in their teenage years and all of that stuff, even in their adult years, you have to be aware who is around them, and give them the space to express themselves so that they're not victims. Okay, so that they do not become prey of abuse and molestation, of any kind. And even sometimes, as gruesome as it may sound, as painful as it may sound, sometimes children and young people are molested by their parents. Okay, sometimes they are molested by their parents. Some children are molested and young people are molested by their dads. And if you've been in that situation, find someone who you can talk to, who will not in turn take advantage of you, okay, by in turn molesting you. Okay, find someone that you can talk to, who will help you go through the process of healing, go through the process of coming out of that environment. If you can, if you can come out of that environment, it's even better for you. But one thing that the reason why I'm sharing these topics is not just sharing for the sharing's sake. Something God told me a few years, over 2 years ago, coming to 3 now. God wants to heal and emancipate people, especially in the UK. Those of you who are in institutions, like mental institutions, because of issues that are not necessarily medical. They've just been labeled medically, but they're not necessarily medical. They are issues within your soul that medication cannot treat. That is what God wants to heal. Those are the places that God wants to heal. And then because Because spiritually, if you're a Christian, you know that, when you go through abuse and molestation, your life ends up being opened to, doors end up being opened into your life that, you know brings you into further affliction by demonic strongholds. So you see some people end up going into promiscuity. You see some people end up um trying to what's it called, medicate, or try to escape what they have witnessed or what they've lived through their abuse, through pornography. And so it opens your life up to perversion, especially if you've been what's it called, if you've been sexually abused. On the other hand, those who have been, who have experienced neglect or emotional abuse or physical abuse, they end up becoming anxious of people around them, anxious of adults around them, anxious of authority around them, and not knowing how to deal with authority. Okay, not knowing how to deal with authority or how to submit to authority and all of these things. So it ends up opening your life to further destruction and dysfunction. And that is why God wants to emancipate, which means deliverance. He wants to minister deliverance to people. So I pray that God will heal your soul, that God would heal you from the trauma of abuse, any of the types of abuse or molestation that you have experienced in your life, whether you're now an adult and or you're a young person, or whether you have a child who has come to you. If you are a parent and you have a child who has opened up and said, there's been abused sexually or molested, I pray that your child and your child basically be healed in Jesus' name. I pray that God will heal you from the memory of the abuse, that God will heal your mind, God will heal your emotions, God will heal. I pray that God heals your mind, your emotions, and your body, and I pray that God will that God even removes the shame that is attached to the abuse and the anger that comes from experiencing the abuse. I pray that God heals you from it completely. And I'm not talking for just because of head knowledge, but somebody who I personally experienced molestation. So I understand people who have been abused. And you can't just tell somebody who has been abused to just get over it. That is not the thing to tell them. In fact, that will cause them to even what's it called? That will cause them to what's the word? To suppress how they feel, which is further toxic, because you're not, then they need to let it out. They need to let how that violation made them feel in order for their healing process to begin. Okay, so if you're in that position, find someone who you can talk to. If you can't talk to anybody in your family, find somebody outside of your family who you can talk to, who will help you, not further abuse you, but help you, and I pray that God makes a way for you to come out of that toxic environment, whether you're in the physical aspect of being, abused physically, emotionally, and all of those stuff. And if you're in the position of where you're being molested and sexually abused, I pray that also God makes a way for you to come out of that environment and that you are completely set free. I know that God is able to heal you from the trauma and from the memory of abuse, because He did that for me personally. I share it more in my book, and I've shared it in interview before, of my own experience of being abused when I was younger as a child. And like I said, it's not just men who abuse, it's also women. And you see a lot of people who have been abused, whether it's same sex. When it's same sex, it opens them up to homosexuality sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. But even if you don't go fully homosexual, you have the mental torment of homosexuality, and which a lot of people suppress. But I'm going to talk about the issue of homosexuality in another video. um so God is able to heal you. God is able to set you free. God is able to make you whole. I've experienced it, and I've walked with a few people, even within the mental institution. God has allowed me to go into mental hospitals to speak to young people who are in this in in the hospitals because of this very issue of abuse as they were children. And I've seen God like literally do, and I'm praying that God does more. I'm praying that God does more. That is why I'm putting these videos out, so that we come to the understanding of the things that is not normally spoken of in society. And when it's spoken of in society, it's like it's not dealt with oftentimes, and people are in a cycle of bondage because it's not, the root issue has not been dealt with. So I will leave you guys with this, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye.